In 1831, a grieving mother buried her child in a small graveyard on the edge of Edinburgh. When she returned the next day, the grave was empty, not vandalized, not disturbed by animals. The body was gone. She was not alone. Across 19th century Europe and America, the dead were disappearing. The 1800s marked a revolution in medicine, new hospitals, new surgical techniques, but with that came a dire need for one thing: human cadavers. Legally, only the bodies of executed criminals could be dissected, but there weren't enough criminals to keep up with demand. That created a new market, a hidden trade, and like any black market, it got ugly fast. They were called resurrection men, body snatchers, grave robbers. Working by moonlight, they would dig up the freshly buried, sell the corpses to medical schools, and disappear before sunrise. London, Edinburgh, New York, entire teams operated in silence. Diggers, lookouts, bribed undertakers. The fresher the corpse, the higher the price. Doctors didn't ask questions, they just paid. Some schools went even further. They had preferred suppliers. Surgeons placed quiet orders. The body trade became a business. One student wrote, "We cut by day and drank by night, praying the next body would arrive soon." In 1828, in the grim streets of Edinburgh, two Irish immigrants took the corpse trade to a darker level. William Burke and William Hare weren't just grave robbers, they were killers. Burke and Hare ran a boarding house. When one of their tenants died owing them rent, they saw an opportunity. Instead of notifying authorities, they sold the body to a local anatomy professor, Dr. Robert Knox, for a tidy sum. That first sale lit a fire. Within weeks, they realized, why dig up bodies when they could create them? Over the next 10 months, they murdered 16 people. They smothered their victims, a method now known as burking, leaving no marks for the anatomists to question. Dr. Knox claimed ignorance, but the bodies kept arriving fresh, too fresh. He accepted them anyway. When they were finally caught, the city erupted. Public fury was white hot. People weren't just angry about the killings. They were horrified that science had silently enabled it. Hare turned state's witness. Burke was hanged, and in a cruel twist of irony, his body was dissected publicly at the University of Edinburgh. His skeleton still hangs in a medical museum today. Burke and Hare didn't just commit murder. They shattered public trust in the medical world. Their crimes forced Britain to reckon with how the dead were treated in the name of science. In 1832, Parliament passed the Anatomy Act. Aimed at ending the corpse trade, it allowed unclaimed bodies from hospitals, prisons, and workhouses to be used for medical research. But this wasn't justice. It was a trade-off. Grave robbing declined. But now the poorest citizens had become the state's unwilling supply chain for science. One reformer at the time wrote, "It is no longer the gallows that feeds the knife, but the pauper's deathbed. It solved the supply problem." but it created a moral one. The law formalized something unspoken. Some lives and some deaths mattered more than others. Today, we take medical education for granted. Cadavers are donated willingly, consent is signed, records are kept. But the system we depend on was built on silence. It began with criminals, then corpses stolen under cover of night, and finally, the law turned the poor into resources. Medical progress came with a cost, and that cost was paid by people who had no say. William Burke was hanged, dissected publicly, and displayed as a specimen. Justice, they called it. But his victims, like Mary Patterson, were buried without justice, no trial, no headlines, just a cold table in a classroom. Knowledge matters, but so does how we get it. The corpse trade may be gone, but the question it raised is not, whose body is worth more, alive or dead? This is not just a story about history. It's a story about the worst of humanity.